Halfway House ministry, started by Pastor Jacob back in early 2011, has had amazing growth since its simple beginning to help men struggling with drug addiction. In just a little over 3 years of operation, multiple generations of house members have graduated from the Halfway House program, and its success has inspired several other Christian halfway houses to start operation in Hanoi. With the metro population of Hanoi pushing over 7 million people, there is no shortage of need for Christian-based ministries to help with various stages of drug recovery. Vietnam's economic success since the 1990s has created great economic success. But one unfortunate partner of that economic success has been a rise in drug addiction. Feeding a drug addiction doesn't take much money, particularly since the ingredients for heroin are grown in the region and smuggled into Vietnam at very low prices. Jacob's vision to start a halfway house ministry stems from his own experience. He himself struggled for a short time with drug addiction as a teenager in the late 1990s. A pastor in southern Vietnam had just recently pioneered a Christian drug recovery program during Jacob's teenage addiction and accepted Jacob into his center outside of Saigon. Jacob did well at the center. Jacob witnessed how a focus on Christ created the encouragement and accountability needed to break the grip of drug addiction. That inspired Jacob to stay on for a number of years to help his pastor and the many young men who came to the recovery center near Saigon. But a time was coming when Jacob would step out and move up to the north of Vietnam. In December 2007, Jacob's pastor asked him to become the head pastor at a small church in Hanoi, which had a focus on former drug addicts and their families. This was the start of Jacob's vision for giving former drug addicts the Christian support they needed to have a fighting chance to remain free of drugs. But it wasn't enough. The bridge between rehab life and working life was still missing. And that bridge couldn't be just an hour or two of fellowship each week at church. It had to be a program where the guys could live together. Jacob knew he had to have a halfway house ministry. By 2010, Jacob had formulated his vision for a halfway house ministry and had connected to YWAM. Jacob's dream became a reality when in early 2011 we had enough funds to start out in a small studio apartment. The halfway house was at last launched. The first location served more as a pilot for the ministry due to its cramped size. Only a couple of guys could live there. Moving to a larger location was an urgent need. A break came in late 2011 when Jacob located an affordable, full-sized apartment. This new location for the halfway house had several bedrooms and at last allowed a group of guys to be together. The ministry took off. There were now enough guys together to bond and enjoy Bible study, times of worship, and digging into the insightful recovery tools of the Celebrate Recovery program. Having more space was great, but the location was not so good. Security was a concern, being inside a very busy apartment complex. A quieter location in a private house was what Jacob needed. And by the autumn of 2012, that is exactly what the Lord provided. Jacob was able to rent a 3-story house on a quiet, dead-end street. A gate provided extra security, and the guys finally had extra space for activities like taking care of fish, birds, a garden in the front courtyard, and space on the roof to set up exercise equipment. The downstairs of the halfway house has a living room, a dining room, and a kitchen. Upstairs are 2 floors of bedrooms. At present, Jacob has 7 men in the halfway house recovery program, plus 1 staff assistant and himself, for a total of 9 men living full-time at the halfway house.